Hello, everybody. I am back. I am sorry about the inconsistency. I got really busy as the last few days. Had to do an OAR deal, and then I had a softball game. Coming back to that after I did the recording with Multi Fanfic a day. So I'm back now, and I am going to finish Rainbow Dash and Applejack Go to White Castle soon. Not right now. I actually found a very interesting and hilarious story that I'm going to be doing instead. If it sounds like I have a slight lisp or like my F's sound kind of weird, it's because I just got bottom braces on a few minutes ago, and they're kind of fucking obnoxious, and I feel like I'm not pronouncing stuff right. But I will go ahead and do this anyways because I have put this off for 2 days, regardless of the fact that I've been busy. So, oh man, I already read this, unfortunately. I would have loved to have done a blind reading of this, but you guys will, anybody who watches this, I think will like it. It's pretty funny. This is called Twilight's First Time by, hold on, Bronius Maximus, edited by Fan Not a Nerd. Okay, here we go. Come on, Twilight. How could you have not gone in 22 years without Rarity? Twilight snapped, shushing her. She lowered her head in embarrassment, as if everyone in the town square was staring at them. This was certainly the last time she would invite Rarity to lunch to discuss such personal matters in public. It was a perfect day for an outdoor meal at one of the many restaurants in the center of Ponyville. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and the sweet scent of freshly blossoming flowers filled the air. Twilight, please, Rarity nagged before taking a bite of her daffodil sandwich, elegantly dabbing her napkin against her chin. You need to let another pony, a professional, take care of these things for you. Twilight blushed, pinning her ears back as she glanced down at her food nervously. At least she managed to keep her voice down this time. I can take care of myself, she answered weakly. Rarity's firm look of insistence only held as she took another bite of her lunch. You can't keep doing it yourself, Twilight. Haven't you ever wondered what it's like to have another pony to... Yes, I have, she interrupted flatly, now beginning to regret even bringing up this particular topic. But I don't think any pony can do it better than I can. Rarity raised a perfectly groomed eyebrow. Trust me, they can. Twilight sighed. It seemed there was no getting around the issue now. The cat was out of the bag, as they say. I don't know. I've just never really found the time, and found some pony I trust, she began, her friend nodding in agreement. Well, trusting the pony is important, but none are more trustworthy than those to whom I give my business, she insisted, as Twilight considered her friend's advice. Do you honestly think I would go there if there weren't the most reputable place in town? Twilight began eating her lunch as well, though all of this talk of her personal business was beginning to spoil her appetite. I guess you're right, she relented, finally biting into her salad. But doesn't it hurt? Rarity smiled, pleased that she was making progress and finally convincing Twilight to take the first steps most ponies take when they're much younger. Well, it may be a bit uncomfortable for the first few minutes, but any stallion worth their salt will make sure you're okay with what they're doing. And after a while, the pain will fade, and you'll find your visit... my Rarity voice is really crappy today. And you'll find your visit may just be enjoyable. Twilight cast another embarrassed gaze down at her salad, as if it were going to comfort her. I don't know, she groaned, resting her chin on her hoof before looking back to Rarity. What if I told you that not only do I go, but so does Applejack, Pinky, Rainbow Dash, even Fluttershy. Twilight's ears perked up at the mention of her friends' names. Even Fluttershy had gone to this place? Fluttershy? Twilight repeated. Mm-hmm. She goes more often than I do, Rarity laughed, finishing her lunch. I believe she is some type of rewards card. She gets her next visit free if that's what she told me at the spa was correct, Rarity recalled. But we can't all be like Fluttershy, can we? Well, I guess if even Fluttershy does it, she responded, if her most shy and timid friends let the stallions there have access to that most private of areas, she supposed she could do it as well. That's the spirit, the fashionista proclaimed proudly. Here, Twilight, go in tomorrow and give the receptionist this card, she said, reaching into the saddlebag she'd taken off and stowed beneath the table. This is the same stallion I see. He's the best there is, she insisted. Twilight looked at the name on the card. The stallion's name is Pearl? Don't let the name fool you, Rarity grinned. He'll take good care of you, I promise. Twilight put the card in her bag, finishing what she wanted of her salad. Well, if you say he's the best. Trust me, Twilight, by this time tomorrow you'll be feeling like a new man, she said excitedly. She smiled earnestly for the first time since they sat down. Perhaps there was something to be gained from all this. Twilight was always open to studying new and exciting experiences. Why would this be any different? She trusted Rarity, and if Rarity trusted this guy, then she could too. Okay, first thing tomorrow morning, Twilight smiled. Do you think you could stay with Spike while I'm gone? I'd hate him to have to wait on me. Rarity shook a dismissive hoof in front of her. Not a problem at all, she assured her. As long as you've been putting this off, it's the least I can do. Spike, I'm home, Twilight called into the richly colored wood of her tree home. Spike was perched high on the top of the rolling ladder with an armload of books, teetering precariously close to falling off of it. Hey, Twilight! Ah! He cried as his weight shift sent the ladder shooting out from under him, plummeting the 10 feet or so to the floor. Spike winced and braced himself for impact, and opened his eyes a moment later when he realized he was hovering an inch off the floor, held in place by Twilight's magic. Phew! He sighed in relief as Twilight set him on his feet. Spike, what have I told you about trying to reach the top shelves without locking the wheels? She asked in a motherly tone. I was only going to be up there for a second, he protested weakly, though Twilight was having none of it. You're lucky I was there to catch you, she insisted, replacing the fallen books back in their rightful place. What if I hadn't been? Spike certainly didn't like it when she spoke in such a condescending tone, but she was right. He'd have quite the headache at the very least, if not for her intervention. Sorry, Spike grumbled, reminding himself of where Twilight had been that day. How was Lady Rarity? He asked, always quick to inquire about the object of his somewhat unrequited affection. She was fine, Twilight answered with the roll of her eyes. Like clockwork, she thought, commenting on her number one assistant's most predictable habit. Did she say anything about me? He asked hopefully. No, Spike, she answered, trotting back over to the table in the center of the library where a few books had been scattered from the previous night's study session. You didn't come up. We talked about something else. It was a pathetic attempt to skirt the issue, and Spike immediately knew from her tone what she was referring to. Oh, you talked about that, eh? The young dragon grinned devilishly. Twilight shot him an unamused glare before returning the books from the table into their proper place. My shortcomings as a pony are none of your business, Spike. Come on, Twilight, it's not that big of a deal. I've never done it, so it's not like you're alone in this. The studious unicorn sighed. She knew he was simply trying to make her feel better. But he wasn't exactly helping. You're a baby dragon, Spike. I am not a baby, he shot back indignantly. You know what I mean, she replied. You won't have to worry about this kind of thing for at least another few years. She trotted into the kitchen, using her magic to begin washing the dirty dishes sitting in the sink as Spike grabbed a step stool and joined her, drying them as she washed. So what did Rarity say about it when you asked her? She gave me a card and told me to give it to the receptionist tomorrow morning, Twilight answered, still unsure of whether or not she would have the guts to go through with it. This was something she'd been doing herself for as far back as she could remember. How in the name of Luna's plot could some other stallion be better at it than her? So are you going to do it? He asked, rubbing a plate dry with a towel before placing it back in the cupboard. Twilight sighed. What choice do I have? She already gave me the card. Heck, even Fluttershy does it at least twice a month, apparently. Spike was certainly surprised to hear that bit of information. Fluttershy goes twice a month. Whoa. That's what I said. Well, you know, if some pony like her is brave enough to do it, you are too, Spike assured her, drying the last plate. You're right, Spike. I've been putting this off for too long. Atta girl. I bet it's nothing to even worry about, Spike assured. I know my Spike voice is a little low, but I just want to make sure there's a good differential between the two. As quickly as her confidence came, it evaporated as more worrisome thoughts entered her head. But what if it hurts too much? Or I end up... Twilight's concerns were cut off by a powerful belch from her dragon assistant, producing a letter from the princess herself. Snatching it out of the air with her magic before it could fall into the dishwater, she unrolled it and began scanning the lines. My most faithful student, Twilight Sparkle. It has come to my attention that you have gone nearly 2 decades without having... Twilight skimmed down to the last few paragraphs. Her face now was red as Big Macintosh's coat. Now even the Princess Celestia knew about her little problem. She cursed herself for telling Rarity anything, assuming she must have written to the princess after they'd eaten lunch. I would like a report on your experience at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, Princess Celestia. What did it say? Spike asked. Rarity told the princess about this whole thing, Twilight answered, dropping the scroll onto the counter. Oh, Spike said, struggling not to giggle. She wants a report on how it went when I'm done, she answered softly, as if in a state of shock. After a brief moment of awkward silence, she spoke up. I guess I have no choice. The dawn approached, shining through her curtains and heralding the start of Twilight's big day. And heralding the start of Twilight's big day. She got up quickly. Early rising wasn't something hard for her, especially not if it was for something important. Spike was still asleep in his basket, and would be for the next few hours. Rarity should be coming over soon, she thought, walking over to her dresser and mirror, examining her bed-ravaged mane. I guess it doesn't much matter what I look like. But still, levitating a comb above her head, she began brushing and straightening her mane. There was certainly no reason for her to look like she had just wrestled a hydra if she could help it. After managing her appearance, she cast an apprehensive glance toward her bathroom. Rarity was still a few minutes out, and she supposed there wasn't any reason she couldn't take care of herself one more time, just so she wouldn't be nervous when the time came. Glancing back at Spike to make sure he was still soundly asleep, she trotted into the bathroom and closed and locked the door behind her. After a few minutes, Twilight emerged, a satisfied smile across her lips as she caught another glimpse of herself in the mirror. "Looking good, Twilight," she thought as a knock at the door interrupted her Rainbow Dash-like level of self-confidence. Quickly making her way to the front door, she greeted Rarity and Sweetie Belle with a smile. "Hi, Twilight. Hi, Hi, Twilight. Hi, Twilight. Rarity told me you've got an appointment today." Sweetie Belle chirped happily. Her cheeks lit up as she chastised Rarity for her indiscretion. "Oh, come on now, Twilight. Get with the times. Fillies have just as much right to know about these types of things as any other age group," Rarity explained. Oh man, it's just as good the second time through. Taking a seat at her table while unpacking Sweetie Belle's breakfast from her saddlebag. "Shouldn't she be in school?" Twilight whispered once Sweetie Belle had gone upstairs to wake Spike. "It's Saturday," Rarity reminded her. "Right," she said, glancing at the clock on the wall. It was about time for her to leave, if she wanted to make it on time. "Well, I better get going," she said, levitating her saddlebags on top of her back. "You'll be okay, Twilight, I promise. Just relax and let him do his job," Rarity assured. "You'll come back from this shoot, I lost my spot. You'll come back from this wondering what you were so worked up about," she smiled. "Okay," she sighed, unable to tame the butterflies in her stomach. With that, she bid her friend goodbye and set out into the early morning sun, casting its rays of light onto the mostly sleeping town. She preferred it this way, there being less chance of anyone else seeing her. God, I screwed up that entire sentence. Okay. Walked out into the early morning sun, casting its first rays of light onto the mostly sleeping town. She preferred it this way, there being less chance of anyone seeing her if every pony was asleep. She knew the address, having been by it a couple times before, though never daring to go inside. Still, a constant stream of both mares and stallions seemed to be coming in and out of the place, so she figured it was about time she did as well. Twilight stopped in front of the doors, to the rather nondescript building, staring nervously at her reflection in the glass. "Hey, Twilight!" She nearly jumped out of her own hide. "What are you doing up so early?" a voice called from above her head, laying on a cloud. "Rainbow," she snapped, for startling her. "I could ask you the same question." I have a job to do," she answered plainly. "You think these clouds are going to clear themselves?" She could have explained that, given the proper conditions, yes, they could clear up by themselves. But that probably wasn't what Rainbow meant. "Seriously, though, what are you—" She trailed off, looking at the building Twilight was in front of, then back to the rather embarrassed-looking unicorn. A sly grin crept across her face as she put two and two together. "You're here to see Pearly, aren't you?" Twilight's cheeks were as red as the finest apples from Applejack's farm. That's the second apple reference there. She lowered her ears and answered in a whisper, "Yes." "It's nothing to be embarrassed about, Twilight," Rainbow laughed. "Frankly, I'd be more embarrassed about the fact that you waited until you were 22. "Rainbow, that's enough," Twilight snapped. Okay, I'm sorry. Sheesh. Don't get your tail in a knot." Twilight sighed. She didn't mean to yell, but she was still pretty nervous, and Rainbow wasn't helping. "Do you remember your first time here?" Twilight asked, hoping to borrow some of her Pegasus friend's confidence. "Yeah, I was nervous too, but Pearly is the best there is. He's great. Let's just leave it at that." She smiled, thinking back to the first time she had gone to see him. "I gotta get back to work, but you'll be fine, Twilight. Trust me," Dash added, Twilight having heard that line in one form or another quite a bit in the last few hours. "See you, Rainbow," she bid her friend she bid as her friend left to continue her duties. Finding herself alone again with her thoughts, she looked firmly at her reflection in the mirrored glass as she plucked up her courage and opened the door. The smell that greeted her was sterile, not unlike that of a hospital or doctor's office. The waiting room was well kept, with all manner of paintings on the walls, as well as a soft, soothing music playing overhead. At the far end of the room, a light blue unicorn with a two-tone blue and white mane sat behind a stately desk, looking in her direction when she entered. Oh, that I did not pick up on before. Just think about which background pony that is for a second. I was wondering when you were actually going to come inside instead of talking to yourself outside, she added cheerfully. Oh, whoa, did I miss a line? Sat behind a stately desk, looking in her direction when she entered. I was wondering when you were going to actually come in instead of talking to yourself outside, she added cheerfully. Twilight blushed when she realized you could see out of the doors from the inside. Oh, I wasn't talking to myself. My friend Rainbow Dash was on a cloud and... It's okay, she shushed as Twilight stepped toward the desk, producing the card Rarity had given her the day before. I haven't seen you before. Are you a new client? Yeah. I've never really done this here before, Twilight answered sheepishly. Oh, well, we operate the same way any other places in Equestria operate. Twilight cut her off as she went into further detail. I've actually never done this anywhere. The receptionist's jaw nearly hit the floor. You've never done this before? Ever? Aren't you like 22? Yes, can we please just get on with this? Twilight answered sharply, tired of the big deal every pony seemed to be making out of the whole situation. She levitated the card onto the desk as the receptionist took a look at it. Ah, Pearly certainly has been popular this week, she commented, using her magic to write Twilight's name on the waiting list, though since she was here so early, her name was at the top. Have a seat, and I'll call you in when he's ready for you, she added politely. Twilight took a seat near the desk, surveying the seemingly random assortment of outdated magazines on the coffee table in front of her. Picking up one of the older scientific magazines, she absent-mindedly skimmed through the pages, trying to keep her mind from racing with all sorts of possibilities her overactive imagination seemed to love to produce. After an intermittent amount of time, a voice startled her from her trance-like state. Miss Sparkle, the receptionist repeated. Twilight looked up from the article she wasn't even reading. He's ready for you, if you'll just follow me. Twilight swallowed nervously, getting to her hooves and following the blue unicorn down the long hallway with different numbers. Just to throw this out here, it was a little bit before this point here that I think I figured out this story. If you can figure it out, comment where you found about where you figured out what the story is in the comments below, please. I'd love to see who got it when. Different numbered rooms flanking either side of her, though every door was shut. Twilight heard what she could have swore was a yelp coming from one of them, but didn't have the time to stop and ask, as she was led into room 25. That seems like a waste of an opportunity. They should have made it 42. But not necessarily in my room to criticize the writer. Make yourself comfortable. He'll be with you momentarily, she added, leaving Twilight alone in a very sterile-looking room. There were a few fake plants here and there, as well as some tacky pictures on the wall. Whomever decorated this room had no illusions about what it would be used for. In the center of the room was a bizarre chair-like contraption, complete with stirrups, a headrest, and a manner of devices attached to it, most of which she didn't recognize, but prayed they would at least be explained before they were used on her. Okay, Twilight, Rarity said this guy was the best, and so did Rainbow. You can trust your friends. Or, if you can't trust your friends, then who can you trust? She thought, still examining the odd-looking seat in the center of the room. Before she could look at it further, the sound of an opening door startled her. "Ah, you must be Twilight," a voice from behind her said calmly. She couldn't deny that whoever's voice it was certainly carried with it an air of comfort, helping to put her a bit more at ease. Turning, she saw a rather handsome unicorn stallion with an aqua-green coat and white mane. I'm trying to think of background ponies that looks like, but I can't think of anything. About 7 or so years her senior from the looks of him. Pearly? She managed to choke through her nerves. That's right. I see you somehow got a hold of one of my misprinted business cards. For the longest time, my new clients thought I was a mare. He laughed, readying himself for the task at hand as Twilight wasn't in the room, as though Twilight wasn't in the room with him. Twilight recalled the name on the card Rarity had given her did say Pearl. The printing company must have left off the Y. Pearl. Oh, Pearly. I see. Okay. Well, if you're ready, we can get started, he said, motioning towards the mysterious chair. You want me in that? Well, I suppose you could stand up the whole time, but I feel you might get tired after a while. But if that's what you're into... No, that's okay, Twilight said quickly, her cheeks flushing red with what had to have been the 5th time that morning, alone. Twilight crawled up onto the chair, laying herself on her back, ready and waiting for the stallion to begin. Her heart in her throat. All she could think about was whether or not it would hurt as her tail swished back and forth nervously. Take a few deep breaths and lean back for me, he said calmly, noticing how jittery she seemed. This your first time? Twilight did as instructed, trying in vain to calm herself. Yeah, she sighed. You've got nothing to worry about, he smiled. I've been told I'm very gentle. Reassuring her somewhat, Pearly leaned over her, his soft coat pressed against her own as she adjusted to the weight he was putting on her. In all honesty, his coat kind of tickled. Okay, let's get started, he said, readying himself. Now, you may feel a slight pinch at first, but it will pass. A slight pinch was right. She shut her eyes tightly, trying to block out the pain. But still it persisted. How in Equestria did Fluttershy stand this? She thought as a single tear escaped her clenched eyelid. Are you okay, Twilight? She heard him ask. Yes, keep going, she panted, trying to will herself into a pain-free state. Let me know if something hurts too much, okay? He whispered to her. Twilight nodded as he increased the pressure. She let out a feminine grunt as Pearly removed himself, going to another part of the room as Twilight stared up at the ceiling, having finally opened her eyes. As Rarity had predicted, the pain began to subside, replaced by a somewhat tingly feeling as she certainly didn't hate. That should be it for the pain, she heard him say as he repositioned himself over her. Okay, Twilight, I'm going to need you to go a bit wider than that. She looked at him as if he was crazy. Wider? I can't get any wider. Trust me. Oh, man. Trust me. The wider you are, the more comfortable it'll be for the both of us, he insisted as she struggled to accommodate his request. At least he's pretty handsome. Once inside, she began to relax, remembering Rarity's advice. Just let him do his job, Twilight. She could feel her tender flesh begin to give way to his pressure. his steady breathing matching with her own as she finally began to realize that she hyped the entire experience up so badly in her head that, in truth, it was nothing at all to be afraid of. In fact, she began to kind of enjoy it. After all, the strange seat she was in was certainly more comfortable than she'd first guessed. She felt a warm trickle of blood escape from where he was working, as he too realized what had happened. "I'm sorry about that. Sometimes I don't know my own strength," he said, grabbing a few sterile towels to dab up the crimson streak. "It's okay," she whispered back to him as he went back in, continuing his diligent performance. "Ah!" Twilight yelped as Pearlie struck a rather sensitive area. "Too much?" he asked. "No, it's fine. Keep going," she managed to squeak, still breathing quite heavily due to a combination of nerves and excitement. God, second time through, some of this doesn't really make sense. "That's my girl," he assured her as she tried to smile back at him. "Okay, are you ready for the grand finale?" he whispered softly, earning a nod from Twilight. She could feel the pressure building as he continued his work, slowly working towards the ultimate goal which had drawn her here in the first place. Her breathing quickened as he seemed to be putting everything he had into not only making sure she was comfortable, but also that she had a pleasant experience. Soon, a wave of relief swept over Twilight as Pearlie removed himself from above her, declaring his work completed. Twilight lay back in the chair, exhausted, but satisfied, just as Rarity predicted. "All done," he spoke softly to her, washing himself up and allowing her the same liberty. "You were very good for your first time, Twilight," he complimented, his handsome smile returning the blush to her cheeks. "Oh, I bet you say that to all the girls," she said, getting up from the chair, her legs and back a bit sore from the unnatural position she'd occupied for the past 45 minutes. "Well, I've certainly had some rather interesting clients. One Macintosh Apple saw me last week, and he shifted and squirmed just about the entire time," he admitted as Twilight's jaw hit the floor. "Mac is one of your clients?" "Oh, yes. Though, if his sister didn't make him come and see me, I doubt he'd show up at all," he laughed. "As a matter of fact, I've got Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle scheduled for next week. It'll be their first time, too," he mentioned nonchalantly. "Aren't they a bit young?" Twilight asked. "Yes, well, we usually have a pony that specializes in fillies and colts, but he's been sick with the hay fever for a while, so I've taken on some of his work. But it's never too early to start, as I always say," he answered, giving Twilight the bill for his services. "Take this up to the front desk and we can schedule another appointment on your way out. Have a good day, Twilight," he said happily, showing her the way back to the front desk. "How was it?" the receptionist asked. "Honestly, I kind of liked it," she admitted with a tinge of embarrassment in her voice. "Most mares do, especially with Pearlie," she smiled warmly. "So when can we expect you back?" Twilight produced her schedule from her saddlebag, checking when she'd have a free date within the next 2 weeks. "Wow, that's rather soon. How about Thursday of next week?" "Sounds good. Have a nice day, Miss Sparkle." Twilight left the building and decided to stop for lunch before heading back to the library. She ordered a smoothie and began penning her letter to Princess Celestia. "Dear Princess Celestia, I learned today that even though you may think no pony can take care of your teeth better than you, There are professionals in the field of dentistry that are quite adept at putting an overactive mind at ease, and quite adept at being handsome too. Even though I believed I had taken good care of my teeth, I still had to have one removed. But I was glad to have gone to a professional instead of just hoping it would quit hurting on its own. This experience has taught me that although you may think you're the best at something, some matters are best left to the professionals, and that most of the things we find ourselves worrying about aren't in reality that bad at all. Your faithful student, Twilight Sparkle. Hey, Twilight! A familiar voice called from above her as Rainbow Dash fluttered down next to her at her table. How'd it go? It went better than I thought, she added happily, her jaw still a bit numb from the experience as she sipped her smoothie. See? I told you Pearly Whites was the best dentist in town, Rainbow laughed, taking a seat across from her friend. Now all we need to do is get you laid. Rainbow! Oh, man. Love that ending. Oh. So, yeah. If what I was saying didn't quite make sense earlier because I was just kind of babbling in the middle of a reading, throw into the comments where you figured out what was going to happen, if you did it all before, the letter. I like to think that I figured it out fairly fast, but I'm sure people have done it faster than I have too. But yeah, that is certainly one of the funnier stories I've read in a while. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Single Hofer, done for today.